want you to give us an overview. Tell me about parental alienation as a tactic of narcissistic abuse or abuse in other personality disorder related divorce cases.
Let's talk about, okay, let's talk about parental alienation.
Yeah.
By the way, I am not a therapist. Okay, I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, but I've seen enough of parental alienation to know what it is. There's parental alienation and there's also parental estrangement. Parental alienation can be, well, what parental alienation is when the parent, often the narcissistic, borderline, or histrionic parent, where they will attempt to turn the child against the other parent. And they use their child as a way to strike back at, manipulate, humiliate, upset the opposing party. So parental alienation is, it's really not that common, but it can occur. True parental alienation, in my experience, occurs with children who are preteen. And because once you get a teenager, it's more of an estrangement type of thing. Parental alienation is a serious psychological abuse of a child, because what happens is, let's say you get the father who's trying to alienate the daughter from her mother. And so I've seen situations where the father will then take the 10 or 11-year-old daughter and make her the queen of the house, so to speak. He will diminish the mother, tell the daughter she doesn't have to obey the mother, and diminish the mother standing in the household while making the daughter the queen, if you will. And then in parental alienation, the husband, or sometimes the father, or it can be the mother, but I've seen a case where the father will go ahead and tell the child, and by the way, this can be mother or father, tell the child how evil and bad the other parent is. Now, you've got a child who's, let's say, 10 or 11 years old. They're still very young. The child believes that both of their parents are good, and you have one parent telling the child that the other parent is bad. And the child has his or her inner voice or compass, and the child looks at this and says, that doesn't feel right to me. My mom's a good person, or my dad's a good person. Why is my other parent telling me this? And but with continued alienation, what happens is the child begins to question their own inner voice, because the child's saying, well, gosh, I love my mom so much, and my mom's maybe the primary parent of my life, and she's telling me how bad my dad is. But I love my dad. I think my dad's good. But my mom, who I trust the most, is telling me how bad my dad is. So maybe I can't really trust my own conscience or my own inner voice. And so then they become very conflicted. And so then if they think they can't trust their own inner voice about something like whether or not their other parent is good, whether or not they should love their other parent, and all that, they begin to have a lack of confidence in their own inner voice and telling them other things, and their own concept of right and wrong, because they don't think they can trust what their own mind and heart is telling them. So that's alienation. Now, as far as when you see somebody, like you see some narcissistic or borderline parent doing that, that's really problematic. And it just shows, no sane person would do that. No sane person, understanding the incredibly bad effect that has on a child, would do that. But again, the person is not letting the person doing this is not, the alienating parent is not letting the child be a child. The child is becoming that parent's confidant. Sometimes what you see is, the alienating parent become enmeshed with the child. And that, when we talk about enmeshed, that's where we talk about an inappropriate relationship. But there's not the normal parent-child boundary, but instead the relationship with the child becomes a confidant type of relationship. And I've been on both sides of those types of cases. Now, as far as estrangement goes, estrangement is a little different than alienation. Estrangement is where the parent will just give the child inducements to not see or to not have a relationship with the other parent. That's a real tool of a narcissist, to attempt to coax or persuade or manipulate your child to not want to go with the other parent, to not want to have a relationship with them. I had a case one time where really high achieving, attractive, charismatic mother of like 7 or 8 children, most of whom were girls, and the father of these kids was he was not anywhere near as talented, attractive of a person as the mother was. And in fact, he also had some problems with alcohol and things like that, and he was depressed. But what the mother would do is, when it became time for the kids to go, for her children to go visit their father and go stay at his house for the weekend, she would plan an amazing activity for the next day. Or like, we're going to go to Disneyland, or we're going to go do this. You don't want to go with Dad. Let's stay with Mom. Let's go to Disneyland. And she knew by doing that she could. And then it's kind of like the older kids kind of want, they, particularly daughters, they look up to their mom and they want to please her. And this particular mom, I think they thought was really cool, a really cool mom. And so I want to go hang with Mom. And so then they would go hang out with their mom and tell Dad, we're not coming to see you. And mom, by doing that, she gained, first of all, she manipulated the kids a great deal, but she really hurt the father. And it got to the point where only a couple of the kids, the younger children, both boys, would go see Dad. And every time it would go see their dad. And every time it became Mom's weekend, Mom would figure out something else for the kids to do, something to induce them not to hang out with Dad. And that's probably more of an example of estrangement. You're not really psychologically affecting the child as much as you are just inducing them to not have a relationship with the other parent. So you get an older kid, like a teenager, they know they have a little more solid sense of inner self. They know they have even more solid sense of right and wrong, a pronounced sense of it. And so when they don't go with the parent, they're just making a choice.